I would like to call a regular monthly board meeting to order. Any Tar Heel fans here tonight? All right. Moving right along fast, if you will. Would you please join me for a moment of silence? Thank you. At this time, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think I forgot to welcome everyone here tonight. They're rushing me. They want to watch this ball game tonight. It must be a really big time game on. At this time, our superintendent will share a few comments.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Appreciate everybody coming tonight. We're back pretty quick. 2 weeks ago we met. We have spring break coming up, and so we moved our meeting in April up, and I appreciate board members being here and all the parents, the principals, and staff. Just want to share a couple of things. Last couple of weeks, things are really picking up. We're spending more time in classrooms, visiting. I had a chance to go to Ramsey and visit Ms. Hepting and Ms. Savager, second period class, read to them. And that was on the 23rd of March. Also, an event that's been going on for years here, and now it's beginning to ramp up a lot again. 23rd of March, I had a chance to visit the Apprenticeship Randolph Orientation Night at Randolph Community College, and it's really neat to watch as the children are interacting with the different industry partners as they're evaluating who they may offer an apprenticeship to. And if you have not been following Apprenticeship Randolph, it is a tremendous program. It's a program which allows a child to finish after 4 years with a job with the company and a journeyman certificate and an associate's degree at no cost to the child. And so exciting night to see children there as they're anticipating possible selections for apprentices. We now have 20 industry partners. We started this program 6 years ago with 12 industry partners. So very exciting as we get ready to see who is chosen for the summer, in the summer of 2022 to start an apprentice with a company. 24th, we had a science parent night in Market Elementary School. Again, great night. Parents everywhere, which was a great scene. Students everywhere, staff everywhere, and just excited to see that. And then last week on the 31st, I had a chance to go to a STEM parent night at Ramsey Elementary School, and again, campus full of parents, campus full of students, and that's how it's supposed to be when we have these events. It's good to see the events back in session, and appreciate everybody's patience as we've been able to bring these events back and have many more between now and the end of the school year on June 8th. Hope all the students here and staff, hope you enjoy next week after we close this week out. We do have spring break next week, everybody, but I know Shay Grosh is here, and she will say she's not having spring break next week, but they had it, 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe farther back, as the early college is on a different schedule than we are. The rest of the school system is, they go on the community college schedule. So, board members, that concludes my comments, and I'm going to pass out a schedule for you with some events from here to the end of the school year. So just have this for your reference. So thank you, Mr. Cook. Thank you, board members, for letting me bring those comments.
Thank you, Dr. Gaines. At this time, I need a motion to approve the March 21st, 2022 minutes.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. At this time, we're going to move on to the recognitions. Tim, move.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Good evening to you, to all the board members, to Dr. Gaines, to all of our guests. We're going to begin our time of recognition by recognizing our Governor's School students. The North Carolina Governor's School is a 4-week summer residential program for gifted and talented high school students, integrating academic disciplines, the arts, and unique courses on each of 2 campuses. It is the oldest statewide summer residential program for gifted and talented high school students in the nation. The program, which is open to rising seniors only, with exceptions made for rising juniors and selected performing and visual arts areas, is located on 2 campuses, Salem College in Winston-Salem and Meredith College in Raleigh, with a maximum of 335 students at each location. The program is administered by the Public Schools of North Carolina, the State Board of Education, and the Department of Public Instruction through the Division of Advanced Learning and Gifted Education. A Board of Governors appointed by the State Board of Education acts as an advisory body. Students are selected to attend the North Carolina Governor's School through a competitive process after being nominated by their school, their public school unit, or non-public school. So this evening, we want to recognize the students from the Randolph County School System who have been selected to attend the 2022 Governor's School. So students, as I'm going to call your name, I'm going to ask you if you would please come forward, and we're going to present you with a special certificate. And as the student comes forward, anyone here in support of the student is welcome to stand. So we will begin from Randolph Early College High School in the area of natural science, Jenna Caputa. And if you could remain standing up here, we're going to get a group photo at the end. Also from Randolph Early College High School, in the area of visual art, is Tone Tran. From Southwestern Randolph High School in choral music, Kaylee Elliott. Also from Southwestern Randolph High School and also in choral music, Evelyn Strider. From Trinity High School in Natural Science, Madison Burgess. And I think we have another one who's not able to be here from Wigmore High School in Natural Science, Bethany Lomax. And also from Wigmore High School in Math is Connor Smith. So if we could get a group photo, and after Mrs. Fowler gets an official photo, anyone's welcome to step up and take pictures. Anybody want to get a picture? All right, thank you very much and congratulations. All right, next up, we are going to recognize our Star 3 students for the month of April. You may or may not be familiar with the Star 3 program. It honors students who are respectful, responsible, and doing the right thing. The criteria for selection could include being a role model for others, making positive accomplishments inside and outside of school, good attendance, passing grades, good behavior, and nomination from a faculty member. We want to thank the Career Tribune for serving as our Star 3 sponsor for the 9th year in a row and for purchasing the 96 plaques that we are going to be handing out this school year. We're certainly grateful for their support. So now for the presentation of the Star 3 Award, students, as I call your name, please come to the front to receive your plaque. And if you would, as you saw them do before, remain at the front until all students have come forward. And again, as they come forward, anyone here in support of the student is welcome to stand, and we will have a time to take group photos at the end. So we will begin with Franklinville Elementary School, 4th grader Colton Carmack. Colton is a very hard-working student. He follows directions, does his homework every night, and completes all his classwork. Colton is very respectful to adults and students alike. He is always kind, a friend to all, and goes out of his way to help others. He helps explain math problems to other students in his class, and even helps his friends locate books he thinks they would like in the media center. When any adult gives instructions in the classroom, Colton is noticeably the first one to respond. Colton's kind spirit shows in all he does. He is an excellent example for others to follow. Franklinville Elementary School is proud to recognize Colton Carmack as our Star 3 student for April. From Grace Chapel Elementary School, 2nd grader Slater Holt. Slater Holt demonstrates respectfulness to all he meets. He completes outstanding work, takes his time to be thorough, and follows instructions and rules of the classroom. Slater enjoys reading and math in school. He makes right choices and is consistently kind and caring in nature. Slater is a great friend to his classmates, wants to see them succeed, and is a true model of the 7 habits. Outside of school, he loves doing things with his family and stays busy with many sports activities and friends. Slater Holt is a great role model and well-rounded student, and we are excited to have him representing the Grace Chapel Elementary School Blue Hawks as our Star 3 student for April. From Level Cross Elementary School, kindergartner Conrad Leach. Conrad Leach has shown great progress in his academics and always works hard. He is a great role model to other students by being respectful, responsible, and kind. Conrad is highly motivated and has an excellent attitude towards learning. He is an asset to our school and much deserving of this award. Level Cross Elementary School is pleased to recognize Conrad Leach as our Star 3 student for April. From Liberty Elementary School, 1st grader Jose Pacheco. Jose Pacheco is a kind, wonderful, hard-working individual. He is always positive and persistent in everything he does. Jose is a good friend who helps his classmates with a sweet smile and a friendly attitude. His thoughtfulness and growth mindset set him apart and make him a very important part of our school. Jose is one of the many students who make Liberty Elementary a great place to learn. We are very proud of Jose Pacheco and know he is greatly deserving of Liberty Elementary School Star 3 student for April. From Northeastern Randolph Middle School, 6th grader Ava Beeson. Ava Beeson is a perfect example of what a Star 3 student looks like. She exemplifies many outstanding qualities, listens and participates in class, strives to do her best work, is self-motivated, and puts others before herself. Not only does Ava do her best, she also quietly encourages others to do their best without drawing attention to herself. She is uplifting and wants others to feel important and valued. She works well with others in group situations, going above and beyond to do her part. Ava Beeson is what being an excellent student is all about, and Northeastern Randolph Middle School is proud to select her as our Star 3 student for April. From Providence Grove High School, 12th grader Colin Adams. Colin Adams is a member of the Ag Academy and is on track to graduate with an associate degree in agriculture science from the University of Mount Olive on April 30th, 2022. His dedication, determination, and positive accomplishments are unbelievable. Colin is normally the first student to complete his assignments, turns in his independent assignments ahead of time, and is ready to help other students as needed. He is extremely aware of time management and chooses not to procrastinate. He has surpassed all expectations and soared to new heights. Colin is determined to do his best and puts all his energy and effort into performing at the highest level. As we have studied crops, disassembled and reassembled engines, and practiced leadership skills, Colin has risen to the occasion. He has excelled as a public speaker, and his self-confidence has blossomed. Colin has been an active member of FFA throughout high school and has excelled in archery on the hunter safety team. Congratulations to Colin Adams, Providence Grove High School Star 3 student for April. From Ramseur Elementary School, 5th grader Chris Melody Armendariz Morales. Chris Melody Armendariz Morales truly embodies our school-wide matrix, the RAMS. She respects others, accepts responsibility, models kindness, and strives for success in all she does. During classroom lessons, Chris Melody is focused on and engaged. She participates during classroom discussions, asks questions, and completes her assignments. Chris Melody has a smile for everyone and is always kind, respectful, and courteous to both students and staff. She is a good friend and classmate and stands up for other students. Ramseur Elementary School is proud to recognize Chris Melody Armendariz Morales as our Star 3 student for April. From Randleman Elementary School, 2nd grader Jacob Watley. Jacob Watley is a wonderful person, student, and friend. On most days, Jacob enters the classroom with a smile and is ready to share about some gaming adventure he had the night or weekend before. He works hard in the classroom and it shows. He is a great friend and advocates against bullying of all sorts. His competitive nature shows in the classroom and on the field during physical education and recess. In the classroom, he strives to do his very best on a daily basis and works hard to develop a growth mindset. He challenges himself daily to do things that may come easily to many, but goes the extra mile to be this extraordinary student who excels in academics and friendships as well. For all these reasons and more, Randleman Elementary School is proud to have Jacob Watley as our Star 3 student for April. And I think this one is unable to be with us this evening. 12th grader from Randleman High School, Kylie Vaughn. Kylie Vaughn has maintained a solid academic performance while participating in volleyball, swimming, tennis, soccer, and track and field during her years at Randleman High School. She has helped lead worship during Kingdom Builders prior to school on Wednesdays and was a dedicated assistant in our media center. Since her freshman year, Kylie has been a peer buddy for every Special Olympics event and has been a volunteer working with students in our extended content class. Kylie is caring to all individuals, but according to Mrs. Allison, quote, Kylie looks out for the best interest of individuals with disability and makes sure that they feel included just like all other students, unquote. Kylie joined our Unified Champion Club and volunteered for any activity that she could to work toward inclusiveness. Tiger Nation is proud to honor Kylie Vaughn as our Star 3 student for April. And finally, from Randleman Middle School, 7th grader Haley Baird. Work ethic, positive attitude, and kindness are three of many qualities that define Haley Baird. She has demonstrated time and again this school year that she has the right mindset to make a positive impact on those around her. Her drive to be a successful student in all of her classes is contagious and is evident whether she is working alone, in a group, or during a whole class discussion. Haley consistently goes beyond expectations on her assignments and always looks to help others in the classroom when they are struggling. Everyone around Haley feels welcomed and appreciated by her, and her positive attitude is contagious. Haley always strives to be a role model to her peers. Because she consistently demonstrates her exceptional character and leadership abilities, Randleman Middle School is proud to select Haley Baird for our Star 3 student for April. Ms. Fowler is going to take the official photo, and then the rest of you, whoever wants to, can come forward. All right, congratulations to our 3 students, and that concludes our time of recognition.
Hold on, not yet. He's got a couple of things we've got to do.
Kevin Beverly.
Okay.
That's the attorney with me.
She had something. Shane, is it working?
Let me check, sure.
No, just have me.
I just want to.
I can't hear. I can't hear.
Okay, we had no one to sign up for the public hearing on superintendent's 2022-2023 proposed budget. And we also had no one to sign up for our regular public comments. So at this time, I need a motion to approve the meeting agenda. Have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those opposed? Gosh, I mean, these are this. Opposed?
Not opposed, not opposed.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
I think you might need to redo that.
Let me redo that, okay. In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I went blank, all those in favor say aye. So what happens when you rush me? Okay, we're moving on to the information items for Dr. Gaines.
Okay, board members, you have 2 gifts or a gift and a grant in your packet. First one is from March 22nd. Dan Albright Johnson, Principal of Liberty Elementary, made me aware of a gift of $50 from William Rankin to be used for the school's 4th grade field trip fund to help with expenses for students. I accepted this gift on March 22, and this is an information item due to being $5,000 or less per board policy 8220. Also, on the 25th of March, David Cross, Director of Career Technical Education, made me aware of a grant, and we deal with grants like we do gifts with policy 8220. And this grant was received by Andrew Atwell, an agriculture teacher at Southwestern Randolph High School, and it's in the amount of $4,895.39. And the grant was named the 2021-2022 North Carolina Agricultural Education Program Improvement Grant. It is sponsored by the North Carolina Tobacco Trust Fund Commission, and these funds will be used as part of a project that's entitled the Cougar Fabrication Shop Automation Expansion. And Mr. Atwell will use this money to upgrade the technology and air supply for the school's Torchmate 4400 plasma table. And again, due to being $5,000 or less, I bring it to you as an information item today, per board policy 8220.
Thank you, Dr. Gainey. Okay, Ms. Waddell will be presenting on curriculum and instruction.
Good evening, board members. I have 2 grants for you tonight. The first one is the grant from the National Football League. It is a grant given to Eastern Randolph High School in the amount of $5,000. The grant was received on March 16th, 2022, and will provide funding for football helmets and an end zone camera. It will also update coaching headsets. Foster Cates initiated this grant and was responsible for submitting this request. The second grant that I have for you is submitted by Carlin Hampton at Wheatmore High School. The grant was received from the NRA Foundation in the amount of $1,768, and the grant is to be used for the funding of safety materials, targets, and ammunition for the hunter safety team. Those are the grants that I have for you tonight.
Thank you. Okay, Todd Love.
Good evening, board members. Tonight, I have 2 contracts that I would like to share with you per Board Policy 6420. These are in the amount of more than $50,000. So the first one is White's International Trucks. This is a blanket purchase order for repair parts and supplies for yellow buses, $75,000. And then CAC Associates Media Furniture for Schools, using ESSER 3 money, $471,784.12. Any questions about those 2?
The media, no, spread out all through the county.
Yes, almost every school, except there's a few going away from fabric and going to hard wipeable surfaces. And I've got the next one too. Third quarter finance and budget update. So tonight we'll go through our normal agenda here with revenues and expenses. We'll look at the state fund, the current expense fund, which is Fund 2 plus Fund 8. Also the federal fund and capital outlay fund. We'll look at our charter school enrollment as it stands now, cash balances, and then of course areas to watch in the fourth quarter. So we'll start with the revenues and expenses for the state funds. Sheen, I'm going to, because my eyes are so bad, I'm going to read one. I'm going to follow along there. I can see those better than I can see. You're good. So in the state funds, total allotments as of the end of the third quarter, March 31st, total $108,085,673. At the end of the second quarter, we had $104,414,198. So that increase of $3.6 million happened during the third quarter, and it includes the following areas. So we received a new program, $66,350, some transportation reserve money for homeless and foster students. Haven't started working on that one yet, we just received that one. Literacy intervention, $119,106. Supplemental funds for teachers. So this is, if you remember back in February, you approved a resolution for that supplement that we're going to pay in May. So that's the allotment for that, $1,154,74. Transportation, this includes, the bulk of this transportation money is the second half of the allotment. If you remember, they give us the transportation money basically in 2 parts. Once they run the efficiency rating, and then we get the second part, usually in the second or third quarter. I think it's a little bit later this year, $1,182,804. And then a couple of EC programs, special programs, $271,460. And then on the next slide, we have behavioral support in the EC area, $149,064. And then the next one, cooperative innovative high schools, that's our early college funding, $275,000. Assistant principal interns, that's the P-Peers program, $51,252. Technology allotment, $178,366 from fines and forfeitures at the state level. And then we had some test score bonuses, 81,142, those have been paid out. And then CTE, I think that's credential money, $110,210. The only decreases for the most part were classroom teachers, that $47,414, that was the North Carolina Virtual Public Schools Sure Up. Basically, they decreased our allotments for the NCVPS money, and then later in the year they sured up based on what we've used versus what they originally took away from us. On the expense side, in the third quarter, $35,557,972 was our expense. So that's 32.9% of our budget, or the allotment. So the reason I put the percentages out here, because if we look at it on a quarterly basis, if we use 25% as the barometer, when it differs or is way off, I'll explain it like I will here. The year-to-date expenses through the third quarter, $86,872,787, or 80.4% of our allotment. Now, think about the third quarter. We have higher expenses in the state budget specifically due to raises and retro pay. So if you remember, the raises went into effect in January. Okay, so we started paying new salaries January, February, March, and then of course March we just did the retro pay. So that really bumped that expense up quite a bit. In the fourth quarter, our payroll expense shouldn't be near that because a couple of reasons. There won't be a retro in the fourth quarter. But the other reason is this is the first year, if you recall, that we do not have installment pay anymore. So your 10-month employees, the majority of your 10-month employees will not have that June check this coming June. So basically, you've got, for the most part, 2 more payroll cycles for your 10-month employees. So that personnel expense will come down quite a bit. Inside the state budget, one of my concerns, or probably about my only concern at this point, would be transportation. So in the third quarter, we spent $1,867,254 in that state transportation allotment, or 36.9%. That brings the year-to-date expense to $4.3 million, which, if you see the percentage right there, 86% of the budget or the allotment. So that's pretty high this time of the year. And then inside that transportation expense, if we look specifically at fuel, which this comes as no shock to y'all, I'm sure, $331,636 was spent on fuel in the third quarter. And now look at the year-to-date fuel expense, $682,260. So in the third quarter, we spent almost half of what we spent for the entire year.
Is there any conversation that the fuel costs keep increasing to
So
add more money?
There has been some conversation at the state level, and they have been known to give us some additional funding when fuel prices go up. I've experienced that several times in my career. I haven't heard for sure. We have a webinar tomorrow with DPI, just our regular Tuesday webinar. I'm sure that will come up.
I know prices have came down, but it seems like we're one
Yeah.
catastrophe away from going up.
Right, and I've heard rumors that there is some conversation about that at the state level, so we're hoping they'll send us some extra funding to try to offset this, because we're going to be way behind in our transportation allotment. But maybe I'll get an update on that tomorrow. Like I said, I'm sure that question will come up tomorrow.
That's a state.
Just to clarify, Todd, if you take fuel expense away, that's,
Still a
the
lot- still a lot of
leftover
business.
expense, that includes all payroll, maintenance.
That's all your bus drivers. That's basically all your repair parts, your oil, your tires.
When did they get given? At the beginning of the year or during the year?
Same as everybody else. Their raise went into effect January, and then the retro went back to August for them.
That
Basically,
helped
the drop.
bump it up.
Oh, yeah, it did. It did. So, yeah. And really, I looked at the contract transportation, and sometimes, the contract transportation invoices or the bills come in quite a bit later. But when I looked at that number didn't seem too outrageous at this point as far as the expense goes. But it's mainly, personnel costs is always going to be your biggest expense in all your budgets and your funds. So it's mainly that, but that fuel, that $600 and some thousand in fuel, which really is adding to it.
is our contract expensive? I know we talked about a year or two ago when we had a meeting with the county commissioners, legislators. You know, 2 years ago, it really had gone way up. And it's leveling out now.
In terms of what?
Of our contract, you know, with our homeless and,
You know, with the.
a lot of people don't realize that.
The last 2 years, because of COVID, expenses have been, down quite a bit the last few years in all areas. So far this year, like I said, it doesn't seem outrageous. I know it's still there, but, I'm interested to kind of dive into that, even though it's not a ton of money, but that, extra, allotment for, the homeless. Because like I said, we just got that one the other week ago, so I haven't really had conversations with Mindy about that one yet.
That 66,000 was supposed to address that somewhat. And we'll have to apply for it every year. And it's gonna be based off data they get, what we use for the contract transportation for homeless, and it's mainly for homeless and foster children. We still got the EC transportation out there too, but yes, this has been going through the roof. COVID's kind of distracted what's been going on with the conversation at state level, but I have a feeling in the fall when we have the legislators back here, if we can get the budget finalized so we can look at what comes out, I have a feeling that's going to be on the list of concerns again, just based on the way the year's going to end.
I just like to make people aware of it. When they look at transportation, they just think of the yellow bus. And they don't, people in the community don't really know about this foster care and, having to send these kids across county.
There was a 3-year range where the cost for the contract transportation increased by $440,000 in a 3-year range. So yes, it's continuing to be a big cost. It hits our system pretty hard every year.
Yeah, the last 2 years hasn't been really an issue because we weren't going to school every day. And so it did come down, transportation did quite a bit along with some other expenses. Okay, switching gears to the current expense fund. So once again, this is Fund 2 plus Fund 8. So total budget revenue, $27,142,082. The third quarter revenue came in at $6,585,658, or 24.3%, which is good, right, almost right there at that 25% mark. Brings the year-to-date revenue, this is another good number, $20,072,503, just shy of 75%, 74%, so we're almost right on target. The $1.4 million fund balance appropriation that y'all approved earlier in the year from current expense over capital outlay, I just wanted to make a note that these numbers, the $27 million budget and the $20 million actual revenue number, it does include that $1.4 million in there. So with inside the current expense revenues, if we always want to look at fines and forfeiture, that can kind of sometimes be the wild card in that revenue. $267,962 in the third quarter for that revenue, 23.3%, which is promising, because that number has been low all year. That brings the year-to-date fines and forfeitures to $762,154, or 66.3% of what we budgeted for that. So we are catching up. We're still below where I would hope to be, but I shared with Dr. Gainey last week. I said it was promising. That number is looking a little bit better. I do feel like because of the additional federal programs and all the extra money that we have, we will be charging indirect costs where we can there. So that's going to help to offset some of that potential revenue shortfall. So I'm not as concerned with that right now as maybe I was three months ago.
And board members, last year at this time, hold on, Sheena, year-to-date fines and forfeitures, last year in the third quarter, it was 54.6% of what we had anticipated to come in, so it looks like that fines and forfeitures category is beginning to catch back up. I don't know exactly why it fell so far behind, other than maybe some things with the impact of the pandemic on the court system.
There was a stay preventing any fines and bail proceedings to go forward for several months last year.
So we're beginning to catch up, and hopefully we'll get back, as Todd said, that's a pretty good jump from 12% over the first 3 quarters.
Okay, so moving on to the expense side of the current expense budget, of course, there's your same budget expense number of $27.1 million. Third quarter expenses, $5,850,897. Year-to-date expense comes in at $21,897,101. So a couple things about these percentages. Even with the raises on the current expense side and the retro on the current expense side for salaries, we're still only at 21.6% for the quarter, but we're over 75% threshold for the year. But once again, if you think back to the second quarter with our local supplement, that always bumps that number up. So we're pretty much right on target where we need to be. Again, the $1.4 million transfer is in that number because if you think about it, I budgeted in the revenue because we took that money out of fund balance and that was revenue on the current expense side. We wrote a check out of current expense and deposited in the capital outlay to make the transfer, so that 1.4 is in that expense number too. So it washes out basically. Third quarter energy expense was inside that number, $984,683, so 26.8%, which is still not a bad number because if you think about it, this is January, February, March expenses, but our energy typically runs about a month behind on our bills. So we're really, in the third quarter, we were really paying for December, January, and February usage. So as you can imagine, that's probably our three heaviest months for the most part. So 26.8% of our budget is not bad. Brings our year-to-date energy expense to $2,552,474, 69.6% of the budget for our energy. And actually, the next quarter should be pretty good because we're running about a month behind. We're going to be paying for March, April, and May. So March should actually be a good month for us. April probably might be a good month for us too, depending on how warm it gets, how quickly. But anyway, once again, my biggest concern with the current expense budget is going to be what we need to cover the shortfall in state transportation. So we'll talk more about that later, and hopefully we get a little help from the state on that allotment. Federal. The original federal budget, $60,508,728. We currently have a federal budget of $62,817,038, mainly because of some additional ESSER funding that's come through since the beginning of the year. We currently have 29 individual programs. If we go back pre-COVID days, we usually had about 14 federal programs. So we've more than doubled, temporarily at least, in our federal programs.
Before COVID, our budget's 26 to 28 million, right?
In federal, it was around 20-something in federal,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Third quarter expense, $6,345,999. Year-to-date expense, $23,729,463. Now, you see those percentages are awfully low, but think about most of this federal money carries forward from year to year. So we're not looking to spend all this money, and we won't spend all this money. For example, ESSER 3, we've got 2 more full years after this year to spend ESSER 3, plus 3 months into the next year. So that's why the percentages, look kind of crazy, but it's because this money carries over. Most of this money carries forward. And of course, whether it be ESSER programs or just other federal programs, most of this, expenses, personnel costs, technology, and then of course we use ESSER 2 for employee bonuses back in October. All right, capital outlay. Original budget $3,109,071. Currently the budget's $4,509,071. There's that $1.4 million again. Third quarter revenue, $1,436,447, or 31.9%. Brings our year-to-date revenue to $4,010,798, 88.9%. The reason that's high is because it does include that $850,000 appropriation. That's a lump sum appropriation. We get that all at one time for our 9-year plan from the commissioners. So that's why that number looks a little high, the 88.9%. Third quarter expenses, $509,943, 11.3%. Year-to-date expenses, $2,474,461. So you look at that percentage, 54.9% of our budget has been spent. You're like, well, that's kind of low. But the reason it's a little low is Larry's got quite a few projects going on, HVAC projects. We have that money encumbered, but it hasn't been spent out yet. So we're, it's not as it's not as good as it looks, because we are going to be spending some money right there. And once again, the capital outlay budget does not include any revenues or expenses associated with Trinity Middle School, because that all kind of washes out. So that kind of taints it a little bit and kind of skews the numbers a little bit. I'll get all that stuff, I'll get all that cost booked by the end of the year, and then I'll show you numbers at the end of the year without it and with it, but for now it isn't included. Charter school enrollment. Last year ended with 1,289 of our students attending 16 charters and 2 virtuals. So this year, currently, we have 1,313 students that are living in Randolph County that are going to 17 charters and 2 virtuals. That's a current increase of only 24 students from last year. And you see the URA charter, 1,071 students, 17 more than they had last year. The 2 virtual academies combined, I thought this was interesting. We actually, the 2 combined, there's 1 less student there than as of last year, at the end of the year last year. And then you see the average cost, $1,479, and then for the virtual, $790. That's legislation, that stays the same. Year-to-date expense as of March 31st, $1,284,681 is what we paid to those charters.
And board members, in December, that 1313 number was 1334. So it's, we pay monthly. Way back when charters started, we paid, once we paid, the money was gone. Now we pay monthly for actually enroll, which is much better than paying. And we would pay before school systems would. You paid, if they all came back to you, all that money was gone. Now it's monthly, but that's a pretty big drop from 1334 back to 1313 in just a couple months. So we were excited to see that.
All right, as far as cash balances go, I could not run this through the end of March since our board meeting was early this month. So I was only able to go through the end of February. $4,849,952 on the current expense side. Remember, the supplement back in November's already come out of that money. Capital outlay, $1,847,055. Remember, on the capital outlay side, we've got a lot of encumbrances out there for projects, so that number, when we start getting those paid for, or paying on those projects, that number's gonna come down quite a bit. AT tax, $2,218,527. For the most part, the bulk of their tax revenue is in for this year. So that number probably won't change too much next quarter. And then child nutrition, $4,965,493. And as always, the cash balances fluctuate through the year. Just a few areas that we'll be looking at next quarter. The big one for me is the transportation expense, and if we get any assistance from the EPI or the state on an additional allotment. And then fourth quarter energy and utility, I think is going to come in pretty good for us. Then anything in the state budget for 22-23 as we start approaching the start of next year. And of course, ESSER allotments and expenditures as we start rolling into 22-23. I still have a concern, Dr. Gaines and I have talked about this several times. I still do have a concern with our ESSER 3 budget. In terms of the larger ESSER 3 programs, ESSER programs, it was ESSER 1, 2, and 3. By the end of this year, ESSER 1 and 2 will be zeroed out. We'll spend all the money. ESSER 3, after this year, we have 2 full years, and then through September 30th of the following year. So you've got 27 months after this year for ESSER 3. Still have some concerns about that money in terms of, we budgeted quite a bit of that money for some personnel, Kathy, and I'm not sure if those people are going to be out there to hire. I don't know. It would be nice if that money was extended some, but I don't know the chances of that. But, any questions?
But board members, to that point, to use the money with integrity and fidelity through time, we need that last ESSER 3 money deadline to be extended out. That was our biggest amount that came. I think it was $31.4 million. And I won't be comfortable spending it in that short a period of time. I don't think we won't be. because the rules and restrictions on it can do us a lot of good if we can get that deadline back past, I think it's September 30, 2024. If we can get it out extended some more, we can do some better planning and use it where it can have better longevity as far as impact goes.
It's that kind of money, I mean, personnel costs would really cut into that, but like I said, we may continue to be challenged trying to find the individuals to fill positions. Okay.
Thank you, Todd.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay, board members, the next thing I have is our quarterly student assignment update. Just want to point out a couple things along the bottom. Our net, when you compare in releases, which are a negative, we lose students versus admissions. Our releases have gone up since the last quarter, but so have our admissions. So our net is negative 37. That net was a negative 153. We lost 153 more students than we gained in the release admission piece in the first quarter of 14-15 compared to now negative 37. Looking through there, we have 3 schools that are at 90%, the most crowded schools. Remember, when they get 95, we don't let anybody be considered for reassignment. I am happy to see, and I can't tell you what the number was last quarter, I didn't look, but when we built Trinity Middle, we had 1,100 kids between Braxton at 374 and 726 at ATMS. When we started down this path, and we were anticipating 2 middle schools of 550, and now we're about 50 short of that when you combine the enrollments of both. I do look up and I see one thing that caught my eye was when I was looking at the high schools. Providence Grove High School is only 59% full. We have room to grow in every school. Obviously, the 3 I identified in yellow, Archdale, Grace Chapel, and Randall High School have the least amount of room to grow, but we have some space for students should the growth start with some of the industry that's coming our way between our mega site and the one in Moore County. So excited to see what comes there. 3 biggest elementary schools continue to be Hopewell, Randall Elementary, and Southmont. Any questions you have, I'll answer at this time. This is our quarterly student assignment update. The 4 trailers at Trinity Middle, just know they're still sitting on the Braxton Craven campus. And they're just assigned so we wouldn't lose track of them. One other item that I would note is when I got here in the summer of 2013, we had 108 mobile units. We're down to 80, and we own 67 of those 80. We've never, in my time, we have not bought anymore. We've leased. But what you're seeing now is we're beginning to move our leased ones off our bills, which is what we've been working at for 9 years. So we can use that money a lot better instead of leasing mobile units.
Didn't want those on Braxton Craven's the ones we own.
Do we own all 4 of those, Larry? So, yes. But 60, like I say, 67 of those 80. Where the 13 are, I don't know the lease ones. I don't know where the 13 lease ones are, Mr. Bulls. But every time we get a chance to move one out, it's going to be a lease one.
What's the timeline dates on the virtual school as far as students re-enrolling in that school? And do they have to re-enroll in that school?
Well, they have to declare that of their intent to come back. And so they're working on that now at this point.
Any more questions? Okay, at this time I need a motion to approve the consent items.
So moved.
Have a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. So I'm going to move to the action items with Ms. Wardell.
Board members, tonight I bring to you a recommendation for approval of the 3-year contract proposal for AVID, which stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. We brought this proposal for AVID to you in the November work session. But AVID provides professional development for the implementation of AVID in 6 schools that we shared with you on that night in November. This is a 3-year contract proposal, and it is attached for your review.
And board members, Kathy and her staff have worked hard on this, and they are going to go after 2 feeder patterns, elementary, middle, and high, Randall Elementary, Randall Middle, Randall High, and then come back with Ramsar Elementary, Southeast Middle, and Eastern Randolph High. And everything that we've got back as staff is ready to go.
Excited and ready to go.
So it's taken us a while with just trying to get the contract and then when we could start with the contract at the time. And so we're in good shape now. And how soon will we start, Kathy?
We will go ahead and enroll the teachers in the training for the summer.
For
So
some.
get trained this summer.
Any more questions? No further questions. I need a motion to approve the advancement via individual determination AVID contract.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Todd, moving back.
Okay, board members, tonight, for your approval, I'll present the 2022-2023 superintendent's proposed budget. And you'll see the first 2 pages are the superintendent's budget message. And then the next page outlines our expansion items. Okay. All right, so if you'll recall, on the current expense side, our expansion request is $828,000. $443,000 of this is for salary increases. If you'll recall, we talked about the $15 minimum wage per hour. That's in the 2-year budget. That's what made that number a little inflated this year. That's our only current expense request, and on the capital outlay side, an additional $100,000 for our 9-year facility upgrade and repair plan. So $928,000 is our expansion request for current expense plus capital outlay. So I'm not going to go through this page by page unless you have a question, since we went through it last board meeting. I'll just hit the numbers, the totals for each fund. So page 1 here, you see a total budget on the current expense fund 2, $23,484,356. There you see the $828,000 increase, which equates to 3.85% increase in county appropriations. So the next 7 pages would be the expense for current expense fund 2. And then on page 8 would be our capital outlay fund 4. Sorry. So total budget $3,209,071, broken down between regular appropriations of $2,159,071. You see the extra $100,000 there for the 9-year facility plan, $950,000, and then internal revenue of $100,000 for activity bus. $100,000 increase would equate to 3.32% increase from the county commissioners for capital outlay. Following page is the capital outlay expenses broken down by what we feel would be our need for the projects in the different areas. And then on page 10, we have child nutrition revenues. That would total $12,197,572, a $1,570,072 increase. And the next 2 pages are child nutrition, school nutrition expenses. Page 7 is our AT tax revenue, .0922 tax rate, staying the same, no additional requests there. Basically, I've just adjusted the revenue numbers to come in a little bit closer to what I'm actually seeing this year. So that would be a $2,514,000 budget or $21,700 increase. The next 2 pages are AT tax expenditures, and on that last page right there, just real quick at $200 school allotment, you see the school numbers, the projected attendance numbers, ADM numbers by the names of the schools. Looks like 4,400 projected enrollment for that area. 880,000 would be the school allotments total. And once again, 2,514,000 would be the total AT tax budget. And then the last fund is Fund 8. This is our special revenue fund. Projected budget of $3,010,000 or $70,000 increase. Once again, I just adjusted the revenue numbers to come in closer to what I'm seeing right now for this year. And on the last page, on page 17, it's broken down between the 5 areas. ROTC program, the nursing grant that we received, the driver's education, that's, internal revenue coming in right there. The partnership pre-K program, and then the balance of that, I'll throw the rest of our energy expense into the balance of this fund. So $3,010,000, $70,000 increase. I know I went through that quickly, but are there any questions about the proposed budget?
Any questions?
Well, there's been no changes, right, since the last time we saw it?
No changes.
No changes.
Okay, no further questions. I need a motion to approve the superintendent's 2022-2023 proposed budget.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We were planning to take this over to the county tomorrow, but they had a conflict, so we'll be taking it on Wednesday. Thank you.
Good. This time, I move that Randolph County Board of Education enter into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute to preserve the attorney-client privilege and discuss confidential personnel matters protected by North Carolina General Statute.
Okay, we have a motion, we're in closed session, have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're in closed session. Personnel report.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Need a motion to approve the classified personnel report.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Need a motion to approve the administrative appointment.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Sounds good.
Go, yes.
All right.
All right, Elizabeth, you got 10 minutes to get out of the park.
Thank you guys, I appreciate it.
They're still having course.
Hey, Beverly, go on, take a nap, Rick.